record. I'll just do a little clap. All right.
Mm-hmm. Testing. 1 2 1 2
Testing,
1
testing.
2 3.
Sick. So yeah, so just roll into it. I guess I don't really know how to start. Um,
Coming into the quiet storm. White lightning and
yeah.
chocolate thunder.
That's awesome. Coming to you live.
um, shit. Fucking. Honestly, just since we're just gonna roll right into it, I've been like I listened to the Behind the Bastards thing, and I'm listening. Like the thing that caught me the most is the whole fascist thing, like their argument,
Yeah.
like like there was one part they're like, what do you think the logical next steps for the like foundations that he's laying are? And I
And
was like,
they make that jump of like gassing a bunch of people in the back of vans. Was that part?
yeah,
Yeah.
and it's like, well, okay, I see like there's an association game that happened there, which is like that's just up to the individual, so it's like not necessarily their ideals,
Mm-hmm.
but it's like, what does
I
where does that lead? Like
like
where, like, because if ideas have like a dichotomous situation to them where they could be good or bad or neutral, it's like it goes either way.
yeah.
So like what would be the bad outcomes for some of what like JP is like saying? Because I've noticed for myself that like I immediately look at the bad things that happen on the left. I'm like, all right, well, let me unbias my thinking and be
Oh
like,
yeah.
what are some of
And
the bad
I
ways that
was
things done
ignoring a
right?
lot of the bad on the left and have come to be like, oh, that could go real ugly too. Like, like
Mm-hmm.
I'm just less threatened by them because they're like, you know, not like the like left in Cleveland Heights. I'm just not that threatened by them, but and I'm more threatened by like the Proud Boys who have got all these guns or whatever. But like I could totally see a mob, like any mob takeover
Mm-hmm.
could be really bad, and someone else could co-opt it. That's the other thing. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but
That's funny that you say that, because I think that there's always an immediate threat with the right side of any ideological point, because they're more conservative and ready to defend themselves up front, and they're
mm-hmm,
more, from what I've noticed, are the type of people to be more at it and go get things. So
mm-hmm,
if they
mm-hmm.
feel like they're defending, a good defense would be an active defense to go forward and to meet them, their enemy, where they're at. Whereas
Right,
people on the left are more like confrontationally adverse, so
yeah,
they'll skirt around the issue until the issue's gone, then come back and then hit you from behind.
yep,
And that shit scares me, because it's like you don't know when it's gonna happen, and that's why I've been like so fucking on edge about it. But
same.
um, fucking, but that that white supremacy and like eugenics thing, that's such a, well, not even white supremacy. You can if with the, I don't want to say fascisty line of thinking, but you know what I mean when I say that.
Right. I mean, that
Like,
can it can and we can mean that can be like left or right. Like fascism can get like totalitarian, like just like that type of thing, like authoritarian. Is that what we mean? Like
well, I'm when I hear fascists, I think of people who are trying to use the state to promote like the elite or ideal human.
okay, okay.
Like they're trying to factory farm the best quality type of person in alignment to a bunch of different shit. And then on the left side, they're trying, on the extremes of both ends,
Yeah,
obviously
yeah,
the
for
left
sure.
is trying to create a more palatable mindset for people, or
Mm-hmm.
like way of being that kind of encompasses more. It's like they're, one's trying to get to that 1% as everybody, and
Mm-hmm.
then the other side is trying to neutralize to where everyone's kind of, there is no elite.
Yeah, no, like, well, I notice on the left and the right both are anti-elite. Like everyone's mad that there's like this small group at the top that has an unimaginable amount of wealth and power, and like, but
Okay, so right there, when I say elite, I mean, if you were to look at all of the attributes of like attributed to a human, like a RPG,
oh,
elite would be people with the most stats going, like the
oh,
most skill
okay.
trees filled
So
out.
it doesn't necessarily matter like where you're born in society. It's just your stats, like your like just like
Yeah,
high stats. Okay,
yeah,
that's okay. That is also a definition for
yeah.
elite. Like, yeah. So I know if that's what you mean by elite.
Like
I always like.
that-
Well,
yeah.
I just always think about like the powerful when I think about elites, but that's a lot of the powerful people are pretty
Hmm.
like it might not be like be like elite like statistically wise. They just were born into a wealthy family or political power family or whatever, like
Right.
W.
And that's yeah, and that's those are like two different sides of the same elite that like we can there's different ways to be academically elite,
Mm-hmm.
athletically elite,
Mm-hmm. Okay.
financially or
Okay.
resources elite, and that all kind of that kind of
Okay.
stuff.
I got you. That's an important distinction.
Um, yeah, and so when I say like I generally don't use like fascist and I've been using communist more often, so that's why I'm trying to draw the same parallels with the right, but it's such a nasty word. It tastes so bad.
Oh yeah,
It's
no,
like
I don't. Yeah, fascist. Like, and I realized like I sent you that Jordan Peterson podcast just because it was like topical, but I should have sent you first like the one on like Mussolini because like
mhm,
that one was the one that was really helpful for me to understand what fascism was because I made a whole lot of assumptions about what fascism was and people on
mhm,
the left are tossing that word left and right like tossing that word around and calling anybody on the conservative side fascist because they're making a jump to like,
mhm,
oh, if you're not with the people who they perceive as the people, you must be with the fascist elite, the Trump or and they see Trump as fascist authoritarian or whatever. And like
mhm,
but like fascism has it's a very like the fascist movements in Europe, like a lot of the people didn't realize they were like fascists or didn't they were getting called that and they're like, what are you talking about, we're just patriots, you know,
mhm.
like and so like it is an ideology but it's like it's kind of a looser thing, a more abstract thing than I thought it was. Like it's not and like the Bolsheviks and the guys who took over the government in Russia, those guys were like ended up being pretty extreme and authoritarian and ended up doing a lot of the same things that like far right movements in Germany and Italy did, but like but they're doing it in the name of the proletariat and the working man and like but they just ended up doing a lot of same things. And that's what you were talking about like it's about people and like mindsets and like just like how it expresses
Mhm.
can end up really ugly on either side. Really, it's just if it gets so
Yeah.
extreme and like and yeah and yeah, I used to be like, a leftist is always like, you're like, we're revolutionary, you want to be like, take back the power. But then in recent times I've been like seeing insurrections over the summer. I've been seeing insurrections like with Chaz or
Mhm.
insurrections with January 6th, and I'm just like, ooh, like no matter what your cause is, the act of insurrecting against the government is always going to get like really messy and manipulated, um and it's going to lead to like to worse conflict than um it's never that easy. It's not like, oh, we're just going to have a
Mhm.
revolution and it's like
And then it's all gonna be cool immediately when we're done.
yeah, it's like everyone will agree and it'll be my vision of the world. Everyone will be happy. It's like, no, there's gonna be resistance every step of the way, and then you're gonna be forced to have to either double down, do more violence, or you're gonna have to back down. It's like, and that's how civil wars start.
Yeah. And then on top of that, you're going to have to enact some type of way to enforce the new rules you just established.
Yeah,
So you just insurrected the people to become the new people to be insurrected. You
exactly.
just started the spiral.
Exactly. And that, like, I followed that through. I was like, oh, like, damn, the whole like it what like the stuff I was hearing in sort of like socialist circles is not so simple, So that's what got me into that podcast was like, because they talk about just different, like the Jordan Peterson thing. Like, I don't think Jordan Peterson's a fascist. Like, and he's making a bunch of jumps to be like, this is where I'm
Right.
worried it's heading. Just because I think the scary thing that people look at with
Mm-hmm.
Jordan Peterson is how he broad brushes the left as like a monolith and like sees it as like, I mean, he points out a lot of important things, and I've like re-listened to him and be like,
That's
oh,
another thing I wanted to bring up too.
yeah, go for it.
With all right. So when you were like, so the last time we talked, you were saying like he sometimes does things where like he's I don't remember exactly what it was. I was listening to him a couple days trying to pick up on it. But
Mhm.
you said like he'll say something as if like, hey, this isn't true. And then like a couple sentences later, he'd be like, but this definite fact about
This is
this.
reality,
And
objectively.
I I've like starting off from that, I've started going back and watching his lectures to like pay attention to his speaking style to
Mm,
see when he does that, and he definitely does. But I've noticed that the things that he does, he already like in the past at the beginning of the lecture, he already gives out the presumption and built on top of it and just doesn't go back to readdress it.
mhm.
That's what I've noticed so far. But there are some other things where it's like a sentence in the middle of him giving like a small monologue where he'll say something super definite, like about your reality and like this is what's going on. And it's
Mhm.
like I can see where he comes from on like his like meta analysis level with like to be a human, you're gonna experience like pain and happiness, for instance. And when you go without those, this is what you're experiencing. And I could see from people's perspectives, if you're not in exact alignment with that, you're gonna be like, what do you
You
that's off from what I
missed the
expected.
jump.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's like yeah, it's slightly skewed. So it's like I don't see it. And I definitely could see how other people could be like, nah, bro, that's not what that is.
I had to go back and re-listen to a lot of Jordan Peterson with a more charitable land because my knee jerk was like, oh, this guy is like kind of pointing at like he reminded me of my grandpa a lot. It's just like this is reality. It's like he's Christianity, and I'm like, yeah, which is why I really liked your approach to Christian. And I think what Jordan Peterson is also getting at, but like I didn't pick up right away of just like that there are archetypes, like there are like patterns and things that are object like that are you find everywhere. It's just like parsing which ones are those archetypes and which ones are not, or maybe not. Like so, but
Well,
like
I one thing that I've saw that the left said is like there are a great of like human constructs and social constructs that we kind of put on top of those archetypes and built from.
mm,
And that's where I think things get iffy when we see where the art construct, the natural constructs are so intertwined and close that we see them sometimes as inextricable when one can definitely go without the other sometimes.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
exactly, yeah,
And
exactly.
like credit score, for instance, like we're like, oh, that's so important. We need a credit score. We need a credit score. But as soon as the financial system falls apart, that whole thing is nixed.
Right, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Like that construct nature of it. Like, yeah. So like, I don't know. Jordan Peterson's got bars. He's got like a lot of like really insightful things. I feel like he's really angry. I feel like he's like really.
I
I don't
do
like.
too.
I
I
don't.
do too.
I don't know what he's gone through. Like I'm just like this man. Like,
I think I think he's. I mean, I've listened to like single one of his lectures so far. Not all of his like classes, but his like sermons and the personality and maps of meaning lectures.
mhm.
I think he's genuinely mad at the like our inability as humans, like the totality of humans, to recognize our patterns and that we keep fucking ourselves up.
Yep.
Because like he's a psychoanalyst and he does this as a profession, so
Yeah.
he sees this on like the
Like.
extreme minute macro, and then
Yeah. Oh
I mean
yeah.
micro, and then
Yeah.
has to see the same repeating trends over and over and over again in life. So
Yeah. Oh,
it's like watching a show that you hate that you can't turn off ever.
yeah. I can imagine that, and he's deep into that. And I like listening to him. I've like with a more charitable lens. I'm like, oh shit, yeah, no, we really do be doing that like all the time. Like, and I started like listening more to my left friends speak, and I'm like, oh shit, like I totally get why people are like reacting the way they are towards it. It's um, like people just get entrenched in stuff and like they get stuck. Like I don't know, uh
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know, man. Like um but yeah, like in the end I think like Robert Evans, the guy who does the Behind the Bastards podcast, when he was talking about the sort
Mhm.
of the fear of the fascist direction that Jordan Peterson may not be intending and may not expect to happen from his following, but because he's become such a prolific figure, like globally, with
Mhm.
like millions, maybe tens of millions of followers, like you can't you can't always manage that many people, you know, and like and you don't know where everyone's taking it. So like when he says certain things, I don't know, I'm just like I'm always worried about like when people like talk about different IQs, because I know it like IQs are like it doesn't need to go anywhere like bad with that. It's just like it's a measurement for different things. But like but then it's just when I look through the comments section of a lot of Jordan Peterson stuff, I'm like, you know, some of these guys are like, yeah, no, like, you know, like I don't know, I've heard some I can't even pull an example, but like I don't know, it's just like some reactions I've seen.
Yeah, but those are also guys. Those are also guys leaving YouTube comments.
Oh yeah, no, I'll watch. Yeah, if I watch lefty videos and watch the comments too, it's the same. Like it's just like
exactly. Those are type of people that leave YouTube comments. They're all just fun.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, you can't judge too much from YouTube comments, but it does show just like that there's a lot of people who are taking messages that may have a good truth to it, and maybe misinterpreting
and fucking with
or fucking with it. And like, so yeah, that's what we're trying to avoid, you know, like,
and you know, going right off of that, and because the reason why I brought up the fascist isn't about like the Jordan Peterson thing, but I see that happening a lot on the left, being like, oh, this isn't on our leftist side, so it has to be the far extreme right side, which is like the fascist thing, which I think is, one, personally coming from like projection, because you have to be able to see that yourself first to see that outside of yourself.
Definitely.
So it's like, if you are on the left being a good person and you view, I don't know, it's like if your thoughts go immediately towards the most authoritarian, brutal, and harsh realities, it's like, what are you living in right now if that's what you think everything else is? Two, we are allowed right now to reconsider socialism and communism on the grander scale and be like, look at these good tenets that that are in these and all this other stuff. But we are not allowed to look at the right side of things in fascism, and it's all under this whole Nazi guise, and it's all bad. It's like, okay, there was, it didn't latch on to people, and people didn't put people into camps if there weren't some good things on this side of the idea.
Right.
And I think the best thing to do to get rid of this whole situation is take the best from both sides, put it together, and then just act that shit out. Just let that be the new thing.
Yeah, I like that approach.
Because like going to the IQ thing, it's like, what if we were to look at the stats and the facts, stats, and statistics about like IQ and race and the differences between each genetic component that makes each person, and we have all the data, and then we take the moral judgments and the you know, caring about the people and giving out and making sure that we have a safety net that doesn't fucking slice people when they fall through it. like if we could take those two things and put it together, then we do have that, like, it's like we just took people and turned them into Jesus Christ. Like, we have the analytical God setting fucking foundational things, like, this is the shit that works. You can't go underwater and breathe. That's not how humans work. You do it on land. And then we like have the compassion on the same side, and we put that together. And then we have a country that's working on the best principles humanity's come up with so far.
The U.S. could be so lit. Like, it could, like, we've got so many good things going for us, you know? Like, we could make that. I think
it's done. I think it's done on purpose, because we have all of those values, and anyone who's in charge of a people knows exactly what people are. And they see the things that inspire them and the things that make them individual and to go out and do their own things. So they necessarily have to not allow that example to be in the real world. Otherwise, people would be like, but they're doing it.
Yeah.
It's like we humans love finding new barriers to just break. Like, when we said, since like it was like Greece up until, it was like ancient Greece up until like 2008 or some shit like that. They were like, a human can never run a sub 4-minute mile or whatever. And then it happened once, and then it happened twice within 2 weeks that it happened. Like, it was just boom, 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 boom. It just started happening. Go.
You see how like people are finding monkeys entering the Stone Age and shit, and then like in
they're starting to use
they're starting to stab the shit out of the water, and there's like, and then monkeys start doing it everywhere. There's something to that, but like No doubt. Like,
Yeah.
so yeah, so like, yeah, I'm more optimistic these days, but I'm also like I keep going back and forth between like we can totally bring this back together, but we like how far do we go into that like combativeness before like the government or the powers that be, you know, get like do something like martial law or do something like, like totalitarian. Like how do we avoid reaching that? Because yeah, I don't know, like that's what I've been thinking about a lot.
I stunting on niggas, fucking stunting on them, coming up with yourself and then running that shit. People could be like, "Damn, that's cool. How you do that?" And then all that's gonna be left is the angry, mad people, and then
Right.
it's just gonna be the happy people and the mad people.
Yes, yes, and they're like, and then the mad people just start feeling stupid because like they're not having a good time.
Exactly, and then like the ones on the teetering side are gonna be like, they're having fun.
They're having
We're
fun
just over
over
here mad.
Just way more fun over there. Like, and especially if it's like way more fun in a way that's like not like like one ideology. Like it's like a multi-ideology like party.
They're over there sharing ideas.
Yeah.
They're having combative domino games where they're talking shit but fun. Like, what is this? You guys are actually hitting each other. I don't like it over here.
I think that shit might be contagious, and that could be
the answer. It's that social contagion, bro.
Uh-huh. I love it. That's sick. Yeah, because shit, like, yeah, like I was just talking to my aunt about this, like for the first time, I for the first time brought up like, hey, like I'm this is what I'm worried about, like, and I don't think she sees like how close to like crazy it is right now, and like, and I was telling her about this, like, I don't know, she thinks she's a little skeptical of just like, I don't know. I didn't really have anywhere to go with that. It's just, I was telling her, I was like, I think I want to like podcast and like try to like talk to different people with different ideas and like, and make like a network of people who do it. I don't know. Like, you ever watch like the comedians, like who hang out with like Joe Rogan? There's like, I don't know, like Theo Vaughn. You ever watch Theo Vaughn?
Yeah, and Tim Dillon and Theo. Yeah. And Whitney Cummings.
They all have like, and they're just all funny and they just like share ideas and stuff, and like, Whitney Cummings, like
bring a new wave of comedy back to I'm trying to bring comedy.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I was like, when we had our last conversation, I was like, oh shit, I see an opportunity for that here, like, and we can bring it, all of the people who see that into this, and like get some shit cooking. So yeah, that dance. Yeah,
bro, I've been plotting on this since last year. Like right as COVID hit and I started reading on everything, I was like, bro, there's like just for myself, I want to build something and like be established and have something going on in Cleveland because this is my home. I want to contribute.
Absolutely.
But like just how little there was, and like there's so many people that want to do things, but there's no like space or there's no way to facilitate it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's no common ground for everyone to meet to propagate all these things. And I was like, yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. That's what the fuck I'm gonna do. Is I'm gonna work on bringing that together and like get all the different people that have the same like type of view. I'm gonna work on getting us all together in a space so we can mastermind this shit and come up with some fucking thing.
Yeah, I was talking with my one friend. I won't name him. Oh yeah, go ahead.
Because you were saying like Joe Rogan, Whitney Cummings, Tim Dillon, Lex, those people. I was like, who do they think they are? Running around doing their own thing when I could be doing the same thing.
Yeah, and they're great, but they show just how you can do this, and they have a lot of interesting insight, and they're all like, mostly like Hollywood people or whatever, but like, so like they have their perspective, but they've also kind of like separated from common people a lot. I don't know, like I think they're all really good minds, and they're like they're seeing a lot of things but like,
well, they also started back in like 2002.
That's true.
Like that was 20 years ago when they started.
Early on it, they made that investment.
They were the comedy that we were watching when we were in like middle school and high school.
Yeah. Like they built this, like, and it wasn't accessible back then. Like, like it was everything, like equipment, like just like the internet speeds, like just like politics and like no, like I don't know. I wasn't thinking about this stuff when I was in high school or anything. Like I was just high. But like now that things are really heating up, I'm like just forces. I'm like I gotta start like watching YouTube videos now because it's like I don't know you saw the Instagram story I had of like my neighbor who's got his like Trump flag and his like he like ripped up his American flag and put it upside down. He like I don't know how he knows I'm liberal by the way I
which
look
is
or something,
fucking
but he
crazy.
gives me this really ugly look every time he skateboards by my house, and I'm just like why why are you I think he's like I think he lets his dog shit on my front yard. I'm just like I don't know, I might be paranoid, but I'm just like why are people so mad? And I just like I don't know, it's scary. But like I see that shit on the left too, like some like one of my friends is like
that's fucking
I was telling him like about the like the podcast ideas and stuff, and he's like I like what you're talking about, but I just feel like I'd get too angry like on if I was talking to someone on the conservative side, like I would just get way too angry. And I'm like, damn, like I don't know, how can we address that? Because I feel like he has every right to be angry, but like it's like we gotta and I'm angry, I'm an angry guy, like, but it's just like in order to overcome that, I mean it's such a toxic place to dwell, I guess. I don't know.
I think honestly, I learned this in the military. We used to have man shit Mondays. Whenever you had beef on Monday, you put on them fucking gloves and you called out who you had an issue with.
Oh shit.
It was nothing but smoke. And like obviously I'm not saying throw hands. I'm
No,
not saying throw hands, but
that's
y'all
like
we could do a meeting like this. You can
exactly like you guys were
like we'll have a meeting like this. It's like say your shit, speak your shit, talk your shit, say what you gotta say, let the foolishness get out and support it. And then we can moderate and be like, hey, I noticed this. Can you address this on what he said? And can you talk on this? And let them expound on their ideas and let them see for themselves and everyone watching that they have more common ground than anything. And the things that they didn't like about each other were most likely misunderstandings or something that they personally had with themselves in the past with someone else. And then people would be like, if it happened with them, I wonder what else. And
then so like I love that the man shit Monday or like man shit Monday. I feel like like the summers when I feel like the left really popped off, like and I remember like watching everything and being like I was in sort of lefty circles, and like I felt this pressure that I couldn't talk like there. I felt like I couldn't talk about certain things or couldn't use certain words, or like people would definitely like they'd jump on a certain word I use or like a certain thing and assume I'm in something else. And like, and I remember feeling like sort of, I was kind of scared to like talk to other people, or like the idea of like the idea of being able to like have a host of different ideas and like, I don't know, someone told me it was like, you can't platform fascists. And I'm like, but are they fascists though? Like, like, but now I feel like I just don't.
I have not seen him throw up any.
Yeah. I just don't give a fuck. I'm like, what are they gonna do? Like, like you can say like I'm platform. Like if I platform an actual
tell everyone that you're a meaning butthole.
Yeah. They're just like, oh, you're part of the problem.
I mean, but even if you did platform a legitimate Nazi, like if you were to give him a chance to let him speak, people who don't share that idea can solidify and be like, wow, that's really fucking stupid.
That's what I was thinking. Because I actually did meet he's not a vocal, like, but like, I'm like, he's this dude I met at a bar who was like friends with my cousin. And he was the guy who I first learned about Jordan Peterson from. So that's why I came in with the negative attitude towards Jordan. But like, he's a really like interesting dude. He's like, like owns a business, and he's like just like got a lot to say. And like, but then he identified me as a leftist. I identified him as a conservative. So we started debating, and he was like, look, like, like I'm not a neo-Nazi or a white nationalist, but like, I feel like people are so quick to like shoot down the ideas of the alt-right has. And I'm and I was like, what do you mean by that exactly? And one of the ones that got me was like, he was like, there's science that shows that diversity, like societies with diversity are less stable, or have like, so like in societies that are more homogenous, are like are more secure, like Norway or something. And I'm like, okay, like, and I looked into some science, and like I saw others that were saying like, no, like, in societies that have a lot of cultural diverse societies, there are issues that, but like once people work out sort of the first like generation, 2 generations of that society actually has like a bunch of benefits from having diversity. So it's
Yeah,
just
and
like,
there's a bunch of negative sides of having a homogenous society as well.
right. So it's just
It's
like,
not it's not but it's not equally whatever. It's
but if people have heard, yeah, if people like heard what he was talking about, they might like parse it apart. But I do think initially, if people heard that I was talking with that dude, they would, especially me being like a blonde dude, they would judge the shit out of me. They, just like, oh,
which is
just as bad.
ridiculous. Which is fucking ridiculous.
I think so.
Like
But I was scared. I was scared.
My favorite, and I feel you on that. And also I grew up in a more like fiscally conservative, socially liberal type of family,
Mm-hmm.
and I grew up in that environment. Also, being the only like me and my siblings are the only black people in my family, so that whole situation of saying something and everyone being like, all my fucking life. And so like when I come into these situations and I feel the same thing, I don't know, it's familiar. I know exactly what's going on type of thing. But
and it gets you thinking about it.
It does, and it's interesting to see how the same things on regardless of where you're at. And that's why I'm saying like all the time, the baseline, anything that we're dealing with is people. Because like people are the other half of our environment. We have the physical space, and then we have people. We have people we got to deal with just as much as everything else.
Yeah, and that's when we got into that conversation about like meaning, about worldview, about like what is truth, and like what is, the whole, there's all these debates about subjectivity, like objectivity, and I like there's even like that like when we got into that, like that, like that's like the like breaking it all the way down, like the fundamentals. Like I started in our conversation, I started seeing like all this like sort of double, like you mentioned double speak, like that, but like not like the good aspect of double speak, like where it's like
that double speak is a linguistic thing where you say something with the subtext. Double language is when you're saying two things parallel to each other.
Yeah, and they have like dual meaning, and you can see it from either way and be like, oh, that's true if you look at it that way, but it's true if you look at it that way. And that got me like, oh shit, like if we can break that down and get like people thinking about that, like that can have a fundamental shift in how we do like debate and like hashing things out.
We would have to get people to understand first that what are two things that cancel each other out? I forget what that's called. It's not a paradox. Oh wait, is it a paradox?
Paradoxes sounds right, or contradiction. Paradox, because paradox are like two things that seem like they should be like impossible to exist at the same time, but they do, like that.
Like the new soup quarks and called the things that make up protons and neutrons. They're both here and not here at the same time. Like they can be in one place and another at another.
Yeah.
Quantum mechanics.
Quantum
mechanics.
Quantum, yeah.
Yeah,
that shit's trippy.
And so those right there are physical representations of how something can be and not be at the exact same time, and that doesn't go with the worldview that we have on like the basic worldview we have understand. So like we would be assisting, we would literally be helping the astrophysicists bridge that gap all the way down to the common people. But it does actually exist in the physical world, and if we still obey by Newton's laws of physics, there's an equal and opposite reaction to everything that exists in the physical realm. So if that exists there, it can exist up here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So ideas, that quantum mechanics is an idea itself, and it's an idea that has like a Schrodinger's cat in it.
Yeah.
So
and it's like we finally have science that is
and that's a really cool thing about science and materialism is like once you're like if you abide by that at the fundamental level and you're like, hey, this is here, this is what it is, You
It's
could be
not
like,
as
all right, well, how does it break down all the way through, and what are like, and then for like the artistic type of people, what are the metaphorical and like what are the metaphorical implications of this thing? How can this be? How can like what are the metaphorical meanings behind a spray bottle? Like all the
mm,
different
mhm,
uses, the
mhm,
archetypical places you see it.
mhm.
Like we can do that with quarks in quantum mechanics and be like, hey, look, here is a physical thing that can be here and not here.
Yeah.
So think about your ideas that
Yeah.
seem
Yeah,
contradictory.
I love that. Yeah, no, that's huge. Like that got me real like fucked up for a second. I was like, oh shit, like this could like I like it's so hard to like like to explain like to get into because I don't know like
Hmm.
but like once we get the words for it, it's like I think we can explain a lot through this type of thinking, like break down a lot of stuff because a lot of things get like broken up into binary, and a lot of things are binary. But like things like there's a lot of times where people like see a binary that it's not just a binary, um, or
Hmm.
just like like if it's not
Hmm.
this, then you must be a fascist, or if it's not this, you must be like, and
Yeah,
that is a huge thing too. Like,
that's a really funny. That's a logic. It's like a logic error.
mm,
There's
mm,
something going on with like their inner Chronos, which is
mm,
like the Greek god of time and logic. That's where
mm,
chronologic comes from.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
their connection with that is slightly off, or there's
Yeah,
some disrupting that, and that's stopping them from being able to
yeah,
interact with those ideas in the stream that they come through.
yeah, yeah.
So
Got,
again, that goes down to dealing with people. How do we get people? How do we get this
yeah,
type of person
got you synced up with your
out of
Chronos.
this
Got
situation?
straight up. Like I got yeah.
But it's well, it's funny because a lot of one thing that I hear a lot on the left that people say is like you can't compartmentalize and put like you can't generalize.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're doing statistics, generalizations are very helpful to get to a specific area when you're doing like roundabout
Yeah,
odds and shit like that. Oh,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I don't know. We have to, but both of those things are true at the same time. So this is one of those like double language things. Like, how
Mm,
can you not generalize, but also like, how could you respect the individual, but also have them in a general play, like generalized in a group that works? It's like this is I heard on the new capitalists that are coming out. It's called a win-win-win scenario,
okay,
where
tight.
you try to find a win for yourself, the partner that you're dealing with, and the like the people that would be the like on the out end, the outcome side of
Mm-hmm.
whatever you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
So like try to like whatever closeness you can get to a triple win is like the ideal the new ideal capitalistic model.
Yeah, that's the thing to strive for. Like
So
to think in that terms, because yeah, I think
yeah.
people criticize.
So like
Go ahead.
so I was but I was thinking in regards to the double language thing that that would be good. That would be a good tool to help bridge those two ideas and then go forward, because you would have to win and then go forward itself would be a win.
Mm-hmm.
So like yeah, I was just kind of diving. I kind of got to a wall. I thought I had more with it. I
Oh
didn't.
no, no,
Like
I do that all the time. Yeah, because like people criticize capitalism mainly because it's like it's become all about only it's sort of it's I don't know if it's just over the years it's become just about shareholders. Like it
and
just
greed.
yeah, and people just keep getting greedy with it because it's like, ooh, we can cut a corner here, we can do this, and like save money this way, but not seeing how it's affecting that outcome, that third part of the triple win that you were talking about. So like
Mm-hmm.
the that that's one of the big things. Another thing that I realized is a big distinction that I from my experience of like how I came to identifying with the left is that
Mm-hmm.
because I didn't identify with anything like growing up because I wasn't really political. I was in Cleveland Heights and like everyone was like there was like two Republican kids in like our class. Like I just assumed everybody is like Republicans are the dumb ones and we're the right ones, and like
Mm-hmm.
but and I didn't really get political, but and in college I
That's
got
so
really
true.
yeah yeah and so you're in your bubble, but like in college I got into conspiracy theories and gotten all this wacky stuff, but that was the beginning of my like quest for truth. But then when I was in the workforce, like when I graduated and went and started working in construction, I realized that that's where I got into the left, where like but I didn't get it into it the same. I realized like there's a big distinction. Like I didn't get into it through like social justice. Like I've always been like down with the social justice. It's just like I got into it because I was learning about I was learning it from all these like union guys like who were working on site, and these guys were like, you know, like tatted up, you know, like boomer, like no bullshit dudes who would get canceled in a heartbeat, you know, if you heard them talk, because they don't keep up with, you know, like the social stuff. They're just like, they're like, we're fighting a war against these huge companies that are trying to fuck us. That's how they see it. So they're like, and there's a lot of shitty things that unions like have to do to like keep their solidarity. Like you know, they'll stop you from working. They'll, you know, like they have to act in a group, and sometimes the group, when we act as a group, we do bad things in order to like keep the cohesion of the group together. And but like I started realizing, I was like, that's what the left is like, it's the forces that are trying to protect regular working people against larger forces, like sort of disconnected forces of really rich people who are just like, who only see us as numbers and are just trying to get those numbers up, you know?
Yeah, they maintain that democracy. They maintain our democracy.
Yeah, and like we've had a long history of like struggle between workers and like going, like I'm thinking back in like the 20s and the 30s when you had like John D. Rockefeller Jr. and he was like his coal miners and his coal miners, like the coal miners working for his company in Colorado, like went on strike, and this motherfucker sent in like goons, and they fucking like machine gunned a whole like company town full of people. And like you look at the labor history and you're just like, it is a war. Like it's been this like this like hard fought war for like to, you know, get children out of mines and to have a 40-hour work week and to like have a minimum wage and like blah blah blah, OSHA, all this shit. And like I don't know, I feel like when I was working in construction, like all of my coworkers were all kind of older boomer dudes who were like really anti-union, really anti-left, really anti whatever, but and they when I was trying to get why they were anti-union and stuff, they were just like, oh, like these, you know, unions are just constantly fucking us over. Like they'd stop us from working if we don't have our union card, and then we have to subcontract a union guy who doesn't even know how to do our job, but he's getting paid 3 times more than us. And like, so it was just this weird thing. And and there's also like this thing of like, oh damn, I just hit a wall again. Go ahead, take over. It like,
so you got it?
Yeah, no, I don't. Yeah, just what are your thoughts on
Okay.
that so far?
Well, I think I should say that I don't know if I'm actually for unions.
Yeah,
because I think that they're just another. They're one of those things that are put in to keep the social war going on. That's what I think. It's for like brokering and leveraging power between the people and the haves.
Yeah.
Like if you can corral enough people to gather enough power, you can leverage with the people that have resources to get things back and forth. And it's just a power exchange. And that's just a middleman in between the individual to get what you directly want. Because when I worked at places that didn't have unions and they were union, I was able to make like personal progression with the people in the company or institution way more fluently, and it was more in my control than if I was working at a union job, because then there was like an added hierarchy to it. And
it does.
I would you would have to work with the people in the union and the people at your job to make yourself move. And it's just an extra block, and then they get money, and then there's the next. It's just, I don't know. It's like it's an extra thing. I don't know.
It does.
But
there's a lot of problems.
I haven't been in that. I haven't been in that for a while, and I'm in between being like employed and having my own self-employed business, investing in type of stuff. So I'm looking at it from pulled back instead of on either side. So I could see, like, if you're just going into, like, say if you have a very dangerous job, like you're working on an oil refinery or you're out on the sea doing work and all that other stuff, having a union to make sure that you are protected and aren't just some expendable person so that this company can make money and whatever. I understand that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that makes sense, but I don't know how big the union needs to be to accomplish that because it's way too much.
There seems to be a universal pattern of like the size of the organization, like uh can lead to its own detriment. Like it like I was talking
Well,
about.
Jordan Peterson says that with the bailouts in 2008, where they were saying like, oh, they're too big to fail. He was like, that's the exact opposite of how that happens. How are you going to keep something huge so stable? Like, if the slogan should have been, "They're too big, they're bound to fall,"
Yeah, yeah,
like,
I totally agree with that.
which is perfect, and I'm glad that happened the way that it did, and I'm glad that the government bailed out the companies several times over because that's just going to reinforce how much for the little people how much we don't want that overreaching government and business collusion
Mm,
between them, and that's going to give rise to the new small business owner class that's going to
mm.
push all those big businesses out. Like, fine, fuck you, go
I
to
like that.
all those other countries, we'll do everything ourselves, and that's going
I
to
have not heard
revitalize
that
that American
idea.
spirit.
I have not heard that idea because I always get worried about like that's the argument I hear a lot is like if we do raise the taxes or if we do stuff that is not friendly for businesses, the businesses will just go to Singapore and shit. But like it's like fuck them. It's like if
Exactly,
there's a
fuck
ton of
them.
you got a ton of benefits here in America, and if you don't want to work with what we're
One
trying
thing everyone knows about this country is that we have 340 million hard ass working people. When we want something as a country, we will go get that shit. And if we feel like if we actually can get it to where people like if we can see how we're getting fucked and it's just obvious. It doesn't even need to be obvious. If we can get like if we can get it only takes 3% to win an election of the population of anything. I learned this doing social justice warrior shit.
hmm
Um, so if you can mobilize that amount of people just to do something, period, you're going to get a movement going from that at all. So if you have 3% of the population being like, you know what, we're working on American manufacturing, we're doing our own jobs here, we're starting this new thing, we're seeing too many like it's already in the public discourse that our jobs are going to other countries.
Yeah.
We're like we've already not even the narrative, just the situations that have progressed, kind of like a narrative. It's like the story of what's been happening. I don't want to say narrative because that's an interpretation,
Mm,
but like the story of what's been happening is our jobs have been going out of seas.
totally.
We're paying a higher cost so that we can offshore the amount of work that we do in this country.
hmm
And that's a nice luxury. And I think that came from generations past where like we had like their past generations were able to come from the East Coast, move to the desert, and then
Yeah.
have someone plant grass. Like they're gonna bring grass and water so that they can live how they want here. Like that's the kind of drive and like this is what I want to do. I'm going to create it here. That's just in our psyche as
Oh
a
yeah,
country.
it's like we're gonna do it. There were like no palm trees in LA. They're not native to LA. People are just like, I want it to look like fucking Florida. Like let's just fucking put palm trees everywhere. So
I want a Florida on this side, and let's do it.
the
Like
fact that people live in Phoenix at all, like is just a sheer testament to human like ingenuity and
they built
stubbornness.
they built Las Vegas for fun. Like literally built Las Vegas for
That
fun.
is the most American shit. Is like, I don't care. See, we can do
Why
this.
would I put that? Why would I put that in somewhere that's applicable and makes sense? No, middle of the desert,
No,
no
yeah,
water.
no, right here,
Run it.
right here,
Right here is perfect.
and everyone's gonna
Like that's
fucking
but
come
like
here.
but seriously, that's the type of shit that's really who we are. We're
We
living
can.
in this like overly like we're trying to show that like hey, we do care about people. We're not as bad as our past, and like that's what all this is showing.
hmm
But that's gonna get to the point where like, all right, no, now you're taking advantage of me and you're being a fucking prick. So
Right.
let me show you. Like I think that this whole leftist push is gonna wake up the inactive right, and it's
hmm
not and I think that that was anticipated, and they were trying to do the fascist thing as a tactic so that when that came up, we would tear down our own people that were trying to stop businesses. So we'd be like, oh, you're a fascist, and cut that out so that all that's left is the people who are taking all of our jobs and offshoring it. So,
Oh.
but I don't think that that's what's going to actually happen because we're too like like if you see how much people are like staining each other just on like their social media like progress, and like, oh, this is the little thing I'm doing for fun, and you have like thousands of
Right.
fucking likes
They're
and
like,
comments and all
yeah.
this other shit.
I see people
And
doing
so
that more.
like
I love it.
when people are like, yeah, and me too, and that's how I know like it's about to fucking come, because we're like our social media presence as a culture and people is like our thoughts first, and then our actions will kind of come afterwards. Like
Mm-hmm.
people's psyches directly attached to their social media platform, because you're thinking about your perception and how you come off to the entirety of the world. So the things you want to do will come up before you actually do them
Mm.
on like social media. If you're like really integrated and you're just like not thinking and just posting and going and just be like, oh, this, and just do it. Like I like Mary O'Keefe, for instance.
Oh yeah,
Um,
Thrift
oh,
Queen.
yeah, like out of nowhere, it had happened. Like, and I watched it progress.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, she's taken over the thrift game. Like that shit is. I love to
Yeah,
see that.
exactly, and that's going to turn into something professional, because you don't just do that for nothing. She's not building those neural pathways and getting good at it for nothing. That's going to go somewhere,
Right, she's
and that's
building
going to become
something.
something that's exactly, that's going to become something established, and like she's going to have the people who are like, yeah, go girl.
Hmm.
You know
Yeah,
what I
yeah.
mean?
Like her whole community. Like yeah, and that's how it happens. Like that's and we can all do that. Like we all have our things, and we can all lift each other up. And we can all have small businesses.
and
Like
and that's and that see, but that's going to be the new conservative, because we are taking our group with our presence and pushing it up, and we're going to preserve that type of deal. That
mm-hmm.
on the compared to the far left thinking is very fascisty and conservative and far right thinking,
Yeah, they're just
because you
really
don't.
mad that people are saying problematic things, and just like they want to change that, but like you're not gonna change it by like shouting. Like I don't know, I don't know. I don't know where that goes. Like I don't know. I just don't know where it goes.
It doesn't go anywhere good. It
Doesn't go
goes.
anywhere
It
good.
goes. Have you ever seen someone that has a parent that was overprotective, like
Oh yeah.
wildly
Oh yeah. Oh
overprotective?
yeah. Yeah. Definitely.
That's where that goes. That's exactly where that
That
goes,
like
but to the country.
suppression and that like oh yeah. Yeah, that
Like,
can
dude, one of my earliest memories was I was at a friend's house with my grandma, and
mm,
we were watching Bambi,
mm-hmm.
and their mom came in and fast forwarded the movie through Bambi getting shot. Like that shit
Wow.
downloaded into my forever memory. Like I was like, but that's exactly where that leads to, is like, oh, that's problematic. Let me just get rid of that so you don't experience it.
Let me
And
just censor.
yeah, and what that does to people is you rob them of their destiny, because you're supposed to go through certain things to become a fully realized person. And if you strip them from that when they're 6, or if they're like 4, and if you take it from them, and the next time they deal with it, that same situation, they're like 28. Well, you just put a 24-year gap in between the time that it was necessary and the time that it actually happened. And you're now going to be dealing with that as a 24-year-old with all of your strength, power, and all the other shit you just had
Right.
locked
So
up
now
here. And it's going to
you
boom.
might just like come powering through with like a really like sure of yourself attitude without having gone through a lot of that.
Well, there's that, and
Oh,
then there's also on the find out that what you thought isn't true, like the anomaly happens, and your whole paradigm is cracked by something that you didn't incorporate yourself. That's just going to break you.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
I
Like
think.
if like it's like The Giver. Like The
Oh
Giver,
yeah,
like they were told that
the
like
book.
color doesn't exist.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. I remember
yeah,
that
yeah,
shit.
yeah. It's like, imagine if you were living in that village and you had like you saw the red, but never, like, no one ever told you what it was, and there was no giver. Like that would, you would be crazy by everyone else's eyes because they don't see what you see. And then you would just be shifted over. Like your psyche would come from here just out, and you would just be completely like just out of whack, out of
Yeah,
sync.
yeah, yeah. That's a good analogy from The Giver because like that. Damn, now I'm rethinking all the metaphors in that shit. I gotta reread that shit. That was a good
Dude,
book. That
that
was a good.
book,
I love that
I
book.
haven't read that book since the 7th grade, and it's just been like the last couple months has been like flying through my head like crazy.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. I just remember like I think we had it like read to us in like 5th grade, and I was like I was like so gripped onto that shit. I was like, what the fuck happened? Like, what?
Dude.
Like, it was,
Dude, I remember not being able to comprehend. I'm like, what do you mean he couldn't see red? Like it was an apple. What do you mean?
I remember being in like my backyard with like one of my best friends, Ricky, and like we were like little kids, and like, and I was trying to explain to him this thought. I was like, how do we know that what I see as green is the same thing as what you see as green? He was like, what the fuck are you talking about? But I like wasn't explaining it well. I was also just like, he's like, it's green. Like, but like,
You're like a
probably,
stoned ass 6-year-old.
yeah, I know. I was like, we're about to know about that green. But like yeah, like, but yeah, he that thought hasn't gone away. It's just like, but now I hear other people talking about that same thing too. It's just like, how do you know like we're seeing the exact same thing? Because we have
Mhm,
the word green that we attribute
mhm,
to a certain sort of frequency of light we're bouncing off or whatever, and like,
mhm,
but that we could all be different in the way we perceive those frequencies, and that the green is going to be green no matter what, but it could be red, it could be orange, it could be like slightly less,
mhm.
like more turquoise or something, like, but like, I don't know, that's actually sort of a separate thing, but that's just what like came up from that. But like, and then like,
Fucking.
you got some?
Oh no, yeah, no. I was listening to you. I was just kind of speaking and
Yeah,
listening at the same
yeah,
time.
I guess that was sort of like a subjectivity thing, but like, but like, yeah, and I remember like the ending of The Giver is like left for your interpretation too, where you're like, did he make it, or is he like, did he die of hypothermia? Like he was going down a sled, and like it just started turning
Oh
green.
yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
he saw what could be like a mirage, but it could also be salvation. You know, it was
Hmm.
like some lights and stuff. I don't know. I'm just pulling that.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's interesting because that actually that is a similar and like how do I say this? That is similarly like that's a similar representation of the fall in Christianity,
Mm-hmm.
where you're given new knowledge and insight and you go into a different world and you're thrust back into chaos because you
Mm,
were on something that was stable and up
mm.
and you were given something that makes you fall back down into the chaos, and it's not guaranteed that you will rise back up. So you have to make order of the chaos that you're in to come up to that new height
And
after like higher than from which you fell.
hell yeah, and when Jordan Peterson uses the
And
word
so
chaos, okay, go ahead. I was just gonna say like just chaos in this
yeah,
instance,
so
meaning sort of like not having like not having your stable worldview together, like not having your rock, you know, like not like that's what that in this instance of chaos is like, just that free fall. I think of like an existential
mhm.
crisis, you know, like when you're just like, holy shit,
Mhm.
like I don't even
I
know, like,
mhm. The chaos in order to speak again. Sorry, the audio lagged really bad. I
oh,
couldn't
oh,
hear you. I
oh,
didn't know you were
oh,
speaking.
oh, my bad. So what I said was like, in the usage of chaos in this instance, and the usage that I think Jordan Peterson is using, and I think it's a sort of archetype thing of chaos and order is definitely like a dichotomy. Um, but like when like if the order in this instance, like what I'm interpreting is like the order is when you've got your direction, you've figured out your worldview, you're like, all right, I've got something to build off of, that structure you're talking about, like your rock. But like, and then
Mhm.
chaos is sort of like the fall, sort of being like where you're not sure, like the uncertainty, the sort of like free fall feeling. And it made me think of like an existential crisis, like when you have like a freak out, like of just like, I don't even like things that I assumed were true either about myself or the world are like,
Mhm.
I'm questioning, and but like in a way that's like on such a fundamental level that it's extremely uncomfortable
Mhm.
until you reorient, like into
Yeah.
find something that is like true and stable that you can like believe and go forward with.
Mhm.
Is that what you meant by like, or
Um.
did any of that like
That
like,
that that no. That's close. Um. Like especially when you're talking about like the stable foundation, like the Well, no, sorry. Going back to when you were saying like to where you had the idea and the mindset already, and then something came in and it like it threatened it to the point where you're feeling like anxious. I know those are not the same words, but
No, but I got that's what I mean.
that's yeah. So like that's what I meant with the like a couple things back with like the anomaly coming in, and then you were like, say you were censored something at 4 and came back in contact with it at 24. That anomaly came. That's that exact same situation. That's the same scenario. Like that's you were up here, something came and hit you and you fell. Like you were unsure, you were anxious, and it was like, whoa,
Yeah.
is what I know the truth? What
Yeah.
apart what I know is faulty? What do I need to do to replace it? And
Yeah.
that, like, you went from order into chaos in an instant.
Okay. That's
Like
what
that
okay.
uncertainty is that, and then you doing the work to make yourself feel more stable and integrating the new information is that climb back up, back into
Okay,
order,
that
or
because
to the new
that's
height
what
above from which.
that's what I thought you meant. I just want to make sure. Because
Yeah.
like I've had a couple of these like falls, like where like I've had a couple
Mm.
major ones. Some of them were chemically induced, some of them were not. Some of them were just like shit people told me about myself, and I'm like, no, or like about my family, or about like my situation, or just like I've had a lot of that rock, like that fall where you're just like, holy fuck, like when we were talking about the reckoning, the self-reckoning shit, bro. Like
Hmm.
I've had some of those where I'm like, oh
Yeah, man.
man.
See, those are come to Jesus moments.
Yeah, dude, straight up,
Those
like
are what people call come to Jesus moments.
self-reckoning, the quiet night of the
Well,
soul.
because it's funny because it's hilarious because the thing that you're interacting with is your ego when that happens, because
Mm,
that's the you that's up front and is operating and dealing with everything.
mm-hmm.
And then it's like yourself and your ego are having, they realize the disconnect, and it's like, oh,
There's an
and it's like, oh
inconsistency.
shit, okay, hold on.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it's like, okay, my active thoughts didn't see this pattern that like the behind me self like myself is doing
Yeah.
and wants, and it's like I wasn't recognizing that, so it's like, oh, gotta fucking do all of this
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah, yeah. It's like your brain starts, you feel like the fans go on, and you're just like, you like start like really doing a lot of work to like find something that is true, that it works, that you can go forward with. Because like, yeah, no, that shit is scary.
CPU's at 98%
Yeah,
right
yeah,
now.
like yeah, I've spiraled. I've almost like had a manic episode before, like where I'm like losing my vision and shit, where I'm like something's fucked up. I might have also been super dehydrated and sleep deprived though. Um, but like that, I mean, that all adds to it, right? Like if you're under physical
Hmm.
stress. Um, but yeah, like that
Well,
that's
yeah,
something
man,
I'm
all of that
fascinated about.
I learned about the physicality of all that shit
Mm,
like crazy the last few years.
mm.
Because after getting out of the military, like, first off, my sleep schedule was fucked because I was working 12, 16,
Dude,
sometimes 24-hour
that
hour
shit's
days,
so rough, dude.
just randomly all the time.
Yeah.
So getting back, my sleep schedule was fucked up. My eating was fucked up. The things I were thinking about were fucked up. And like I had to get my sleeping under wraps first because I
Mm,
had to get on schedule for work. And then
mm.
like doing that, having that be more consistent helped my body feel a lot less anxious and like, oh, like what are we
Yes.
doing? Oh, let's be ready for everything
Sleep's
at all
like the
times.
top.
And
Sleep's
then
like the main thing. Like water, sleep. Like
yes, I honestly would rather sleep sometimes to get water.
yeah, yeah, dude.
but
Sleep might be the most important.
but after like sleeping and then getting my eating in habit, like just kind of doing all the things to put my body in place, took like 70% of the mental strain that I was feeling off immediately,
Mm,
because it was like
mm,
my body didn't feel in danger. It
mm,
didn't
mhm,
feel a need to be on such a high octane drive. So it was like,
mm, mhm.
cool. We don't need to put out as much energy, so let's just chill. Like I
Yeah,
felt it, and I was like, cool, I can chill. Then it
we
was like
can
I
do
can
this.
approach my thoughts easier. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's like, all right, everything's nice and relaxed. What's this issue up here? Let's bring it down. Oh, that's not that bad. We don't even need that anymore.
yeah, yeah. I literally like just fucked my sleep schedule up like a week ago, and just from sheer just that scooting it back a little later each night, and I need like structure and shit. Like, but like it was like I started feeling that wind up happening again, like that sleep. I've recognized this because in my job I was doing a lot of that like switching of like sleep schedules. That like just like you do nocturnal for 2 days and then diurnal for 2 days, and it's like that shit is so rough. And my coworkers were just like, "Dude, you just get used to it." And I'm like, I think this is like really unhealthy. Like I'm coming to see this as like, at first I'm like, yeah, bro, I'll just like drink a bunch of Red Bull. I tried the like stimulant thing. And then I tried like, you know, I was smoking a lot of weed to sort of use it as a stimulant too. But like, then like I started getting close to like the edge and like was really like, yeah, like I started seeing some like wacky shit, like where I was like, okay, like, and one thing that like I you know like every now and then like where you have like for okay, so like I had one like work like sort of bender, sort of like a work bender, where like I came home from it and I finally got to like sleep regularly, but I still was fucked up. And like I like for like 2 weeks I was like, it was weird. It was like at like 4 or 5 p.m. like roughly like every day I would have this, it almost felt like low blood pressure or something, where I like you get dizzy and woozy, and I had to sit down. My coworkers are like, you know, you're smoking too much weed or whatever, and like I'm like, this is different, like this is some weird like slipping stuff. But like and it kept happening. It was like a terrible headache, and I was like, I fucked my brain up. I did it. This is it. Like I did it. Like, and there ain't coming back from this. And I was just praying. I got real spiritual at this time, where I was just like, where I'm just like, I will do I will be so good if you give me a chance.
God, I know you're there.
Yeah, I know. I was like, I know I've been ignoring a lot of things. And I swear I will change. So, but like, what got me out of that, or at least what I attribute to, because sometimes something happens, you would ascribe that as the thing, and maybe it was not, like it just time. I needed time and like water and sleep and everything. But I took magnesium. I like had heard, I like was Googling everything. I was like, what's wrong with me? You know, and people were just like, sometimes you get low on magnesium, and magnesium is like it interfaces with water. It's like one of the like it helps you regulate everything in your body. And I just popped like a 50 mg of magnesium. It has no effect. It's like in plants. It's like, you know, something you get from like vegetables and stuff. But like and meat too. Everything's got magnesium. It's like one of those fundamental things. But like within an hour, I was back to normal and didn't have any issues anymore. So now I'm like, I'm a fucking like disciple of magnesium. Like I had like I got really into like recommending. I was like, if you're having problems, like get this, like make sure, rule this out, you know. So I'm like all about that now. And maybe that wasn't even it. Like you
having heart problems, I feel bad for you, son.
Yeah, exactly.
I got magnesium for
get
you.
Some pop a mag, try that shit, because like that shit worked for me. I was like, it was either the prayers or the magnesium, and maybe both. So like, yeah, so I was like,
it might have been both. You might have just been like praying, and then like magnesium came into the zeitgeist.
Just came in and just like connected the thing. I don't know. I'm like miffed by it, but like yeah. So like if that's just try that sometime, like just magnesium. If that's just one of the vitamins, I take it all the time now. Actually, I've been slipping because of course that's the other thing is like when you have these like finding Jesus moments, you also like once you get back to normal, we're so fucking like our animal stuff, like we just go right back.
You're like, I'm fucking gold, baby.
I'm good.
I was always perfect. I never needed to do nothing.
Good. That was not like I'm good. And then you just repeat. And if you probably like zoomed out and looked at yourself, you just see yourself as this little like cycle. Like
that's what I was saying about Jordan Peterson. Why he's so angry? He sees the human cycle and like what we're doing, and it's like,
And I would be frustrated too. Yeah, no, I don't blame him for that. Like, if you get really into that, like that's in it. Yeah, you don't like pull away and try to find something.
He's someone who put like Carl Jung, Freud, Nietzsche, like all those philosophers into like a modern articulable language. You have to be very mad to do that. You have to be very frustrated fundamentally at something to do that.
I want him to like see something or experience something that get like an epiphany kind of moment that he like can pull that into it. Cause I think he could be like, that's the only thing. Like he could be like, he's already dope. It's just like, he could be fucking like, I don't know. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't know. Like, I feel like if I didn't have near death experiences, in a car, I almost flew off the road. I crashed my car into a telephone pole and almost killed all my friends one time. I like overdosed on drugs numerous times. You know, just like if I didn't have those experiences, I don't know if I would like be who I am. You know, like and you know when Jordan Peterson was doing that breathing exercise with that Russian guy, like that
with Hum or Hum. Yeah, the Iceman.
Yeah, I'm like the way he was describing the that pain and like that like intensity. I'm like that's that. Like I think that's like getting to that like to the edge and like and coming back. And it also has the physiological thing with oxygen and like depriving and like you know like that aspect. So I'm really interested in that. That thing was in. That shit sounds like it painful or whatever, but like that's all near deaths are, you know. So like,
it's funny that you bring up near-death experiences because I was just watching Black Mirror, and there was the episode where the doctor had this like neural scan thing that linked up with people's heads, and he can feel what those individuals are feeling.
The guy who like went crazy and ended up like drilling that dude in the forehead.
Yeah.
The one they were like fucking.
Well, because like
that shit was crazy. Yeah, that was a crazy episode.
That episode was the only episode of that show so far that's physically made me uncomfortable. Like I had to be like, oh,
yeah,
like,
oh my god,
something
makes you
something
like,
about that. Fuck yeah,
yeah.
But when the dude died and he like felt it and felt
when he
felt all the endorphins of rushing of him dying.
When he felt the like politician who got assassinated with poison. Like when he was like
and he felt him die.
Yeah.
Like. Yeah, just the thought of that, just like I don't know. That episode came back. It's just
that shit hit me too. Like that was one of my favorite episodes. Like that one and the one where like where they're like in the Starship like video game.
Yeah.
Like that, those are my favorite ones because they like
me too. I like that one a lot.
Story arc, like a lot of the dark, like I like Darkness or whatever, but like a lot of the Black Mirror episodes like leave you with just a horrible feeling. Like, you know,
like the Twilight Zone.
Yeah. But like when they take you to that like terrible feeling, but then like there's a heroic emergence from it, I'm like, yeah, like I love that.
Dude, I fucking that episode was amazing, and I really liked the fact that they ended with them being able to be in their own universe. Yeah, because I'm like, yes, that's exactly how that would.
It was perfect. It was such a good
it was
work of art.
Yeah, and they fucking left him in the outer world that was no longer connected to the internet, so he was just stuck.
Yeah, no, he was like, oh, this dude, oh yeah, that's like the infinity, like facing eternity, like oh my god.
Yeah, man.
I had a shroom trip that was like that, where I was like, it was like tea. And I just like we're gonna get like wiggly and go to a concert, and like I ended up ripping my boxers in half and just like grabbing my junk just like a monkey, just like I was just like like I was like mom, like not the same time, but like there was a separate time where I was like I was I ended up peeing on the floor, bro. Like I was like I took a bite out of a windowsill. Like I thought I was dead. I was convinced that I was dead, but I was still there. So I was like, I'm just stuck here forever. And I like, it was like an hour and a half of that probably, but it felt like eternity. So I was like, down from that. That was another one of those things where I was like, never again. I'm going to be the best version of myself I can be. And of course, went right back into doing the same bullshit. But like
I'm dead. We're just gonna take a couple sips, get a little wavy.
I like saw like I saw like the triangle and like the like 369 like I was seeing like at one point I saw like a like everything was like a waving like basket, like a weaving over under of just dicks and vaginas, and all I could hear was like it was just sex moans, and it was just like I was tapping into like the primal urge or something, and it was like
You were just straight up in your limbic system, bro.
I went. It was like there was just like it was like dreams. It was just like you were in this. I was in sex world, and then I was in like I'm dead world, and then I'm in like. But before all of that, it was very cool. It was like I was seeing like people, like spirit things. I was seeing like multiple dimension things, kind of like the Matthew McConaughey when he was in the wormhole or the black hole or whatever. And then like I was like, oh my god, this is great. But then it just kept going, and I was like, no, I'm not ready to deal with this. And that shit hurt.
Dude. So there's a one of the theories on how psychedelics works is that, so one thing first is that our consciousness isn't hidden in our brain. It's actually something that we fully embody. Like,
we're like a transceiver.
or like
or receiver. We're like a receiver of something.
I'm sorry?
Like our brain's kind of like a receiver, like a radio.
Well,
or never mind. I was just trying to use an analogy, but like
yeah. But our whole body is actually our entireness. Like, there's been studies now showing that some recipients that receive organ transplants have gotten some personality traits and cravings and things similar to the person that had them before.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of the studies that I've read on psychedelics is that your consciousness moves around and you're aware of moving around and where it's going, and different parts of your body are linked to different things just over time. Like, if like in the past, like back when we were primal humans, if we were to eat something that was bad, it would generate in the stomach, and so we would associate bad feelings and anxiety with our gut. And so in our brain, if something made us anxious, we would feel it in our gut, and that goes to like that embodiment. So that made, and so I have this book that I've been chipping away at called How the Brain Works. It's this right here.
Oh hell yeah! Oh shit yeah!
And it breaks down all the sections of the brain, like the hippocampus, like the cerebral cortex, the brainstem, all this different separate parts of the brain.
Different parts.
But I mean them that well, but each one has a specific purpose. Like, one regulates body temperature, sexual drive, aggression, ambition, your drive toward things. The top portion of our brain, like the part that has all the squigglies, they're called gigli or something like that. Though that's the newest portion of our brain, which has like personality and all of the abstract stuff that we just started to acquire. But with like sex, hunger, fear, anxiety, all these are located at the base of our brain. So if you're tripping and you're conscious to a section where it's all like sex and drive and the things that push you, like, it's like your consciousness is sitting with your hip.
You like
listening to what it earth to say.
You like kind of like fall back.
Well, but see, well, it's not necessarily in your control. Like, your consciousness flitters around to the different sections of your body and your brain. So it's like when you stop at hippocampus world, it's like sex, dicks, and
it was
flying
just like
all over the place.
It was like 8 tabs of porn open at the same time. It was only like a short episode, but I was just like, what am I watching? Like, yeah.
But then you go over to like your consciousness will go over to a different part of your brain that deals with like love and oxytocin and where all those things are released. And then you'll feel like euphoria and all like the things, and you'll
tap into that and
all like the archetypes that go with that.
That's interesting. That actually is a really good theory. I never thought about that. Like, because when you're in tripping, like in different stages of it, you're like, you like your whole reality is that, but it changes. It keeps changing, and you can go into real dark places.
And it's fluid, and it all makes sense and is cohesive. Like, you can it doesn't make sense, but it makes sense to you in your experience when it shifts like a dream would.
Yeah.
And it's similar. I mean, that's what happens when you're like, if you're dreaming and if you have hippocampal issues, they will manifest as visions or premonitions in your dream. Like, if you're having trouble regulating your sex energy, you'll have lots of sex dreams and things related to sex all the time, and your dream hippocampus.
It just
And so
expresses
that's
through.
consciousness is yeah, and then your consciousness, I believe, was designed by what to have you be able to go out and make the correct choices to properly alleviate or help fix that thing that's alert.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Because if like through your active decisions, you can make that worse or better, and your dreams will let you know. Like if you're
Yeah,
doing something to make it worse, you'll dreams the nightmares, the night terrors pretty fucking quick. And if you alleviate that in the real world, the dream won't reoccur.
that's
So
interesting.
taking that same principle and transferring it into psychedelics, it's like if you go into certain areas, like if you have an anxiety around a certain place, it's same thing as like chronic pain in your body. Your part of your brain will constantly keep flaring. So
Mm-hmm.
you'll be able to experience and see what those are through the psychedelics, and then be able to, in your like sober real world, be able
Mm.
to take the actions to alleviate that.
That's what's up. Yeah, like I'm trying to think like where to go. Like last, I don't know, the first, like last night I had a dream. It was like like you ever get like go back to high school dreams, and like I had like hella. It was like my dream last night was like it was like all the Heights people, like our whole class pretty much, like graduated, and there's like all these ceremony and stuff, and it was like Cleveland Heights, but like if it were really hilly, and then it was like we went all the way up this hill, and like we were like we got to find somewhere to party that's where we can get really loud away from like the community. And like we all piled up into this like giant attic, like just kind of just like when you're back in high school, it's like we got an attic to like chilling. But it was like everybody, and then fucking like Nancy Pelosi shows up with like a Bombay fire, and I'm just like, why is Nancy here? But like we all started singing "Riding Solo" by Jason Derulo, and it was just like it was great. I don't know, like I don't know what that means. It was a good time. I don't even know the lyrics to that song, like you know.
This, I'm riding solo.
Yeah, it's all right,
Everyone
so,
just kind of mumbling and
yeah, no,
humming
but
it.
like the song was playing, and I just love the melody of that song so much. But yeah, I was like, who invited Nancy Pelosi? I don't know. At least she showed up with booze, but like, yeah. But yeah, no,
Good
I
for
like,
her.
yeah, I have had a lot of night terrors and like really anxious dreams, and like I you know like the dream of like where you can't run, or you can't quite open your eyes, you can't quite see where you're going, you've got to
Mm-hmm.
go, or like you're swinging and you're not, your force isn't working, or like that, like those got to be like sort of restrictive sort of
Mm-hmm.
dreams of like of being powerless, or not, or being unable to like to get going, like to, you know, or something like um
I have a book on that if you want to read it.
hell yeah, what do you got?
It's called The Way of the Dream by Marie Louise von Franz. She created psychoanalytics with Carl Jung.
Oh shit, yeah, no, I'm
Yeah.
definitely into that stuff. Like I have not visited like reading about dreams in a minute, but like that could be
This is
yeah, send me that link.
this shit is like, you know, in Hero of a Thousand Faces, how
Joseph Campbell.
uh, Joseph Campbell dreams to articulate the archetypal themes that happen in dreams and myths and shit like that.
Yeah, yeah.
This takes that to like a very scientific level. It's
Oh
like
hell yeah.
here's but it's a really fun book to read. It almost doesn't it almost doesn't feel scientific. Like I can
Right.
see
It's
if
written well. Like it's not
like
like
if you
too
didn't
like
yeah, like if you didn't know that this was like an actual science, like if there was people who were scientifically minded behind this, you'd be like, I don't know. It's so weird. It's I don't know. It's I don't know. It's just really weird how like on point it is. Because like there is some of the things where it was like talking about um like some of the dreams that people will have to like their parents and their family life. I was like reading it. I was like just reading it. Like it wasn't the same situation or the same dream, and I couldn't deny how much it clicked. You know what I mean? It was just like
I know what you mean when you're reading something. You're just like
it was just
you're like
like
yes,
oh
yeah. You're like this is hitting.
it,
Like oh, is it hitting
yeah.
in the good ways and the like ooh ways? Like
Yeah, it was
yeah.
like I was kind of repulsed, like, oh
Oh
no, that's
no.
true.
Oh, yeah.
How does this book know who I am?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Where it's like, yeah, I like that about that.
It's like
I want
it's
to
like
read
it's
that.
like astrology.
Like where
It's
you
like
start
it's
seasons
like an
and
it's
you're
like
like,
you're reading an astrology book.
that's really hitting, and you're like, oh shit, like
Yeah,
I know.
yeah, but
I'm always
it's
so skeptical of
but
astrology.
then
And
you're
I'll
like
read my
to
Pisces shit.
do
I'm
with
like,
archetype,
God
like.
damn it. I'm like, ugh, like like I read one that was recently. It was like an astrology from like the 1970s or something. It was just funny how like brutal it was. And it was like, and I know a lot of things can apply to a lot of people, but it was like Pisces, like you know, you think the FBI or CIA is like, you know, like eventually gonna like get onto you. And I'm like, my paranoid ass is just like, but I've
How'd you
come,
know that?
yeah, I used to be really worried about that, but it's like, it's sort of like the arrogance of thinking that like what you're doing is any like threat to like the CIA and be like that. So I'm not worried about that anymore. But like, I don't know. I was talking to my other friend on the phone, and he was like, we were talking about some sort of subject, and he was like, yo, shut, you know, like, shh, you know, like they're picking up all this shit, you know, it's like all getting, you know, put in those data centers or something. I'm like, maybe, but like, actually, maybe. I don't know. I don't know. Like, I know that they like data center. Like, damn it. I don't want to think about that shit because I just want to speak my mind, and I don't think I'm like doing anything subversive, you know, like.
Oh shit!
But they do be
No,
having these
but
data
yeah, man,
centers in
like
Nevada.
they do, they really
Yeah.
do. But fuck it, how long is it gonna take them to listen and look through all that shit?
If
Fuck
they
them.
have AI that can like keyword, like it's not like it's all like dormant, but if suddenly like you become like a leader or an organizer, or I don't know, like you become some point of want, like they want to find you, they all they have to do is do like a search word, and they can like go through everything and like see. That's what my friend was telling me is the like thing you gotta be worried about. But I'm like, man, but that if we accept that, then we're just accepting that like they already won, and like we, you know, we can't, we gotta act like Big Brother's watching, you know. And it's like I don't think they've got the tech to do that yet, but like I don't know, because I'm always like, I don't know, you know, where they're at, and I don't know if they're even trying to do anything nefarious.
Even if they do, even if they do, the tyranny has to exist on the level of the individual for the tyranny to take place, because you have to individually tyrannize yourself through your ideas to
That's
sit
what
in a tyranny.
that's what I was saying.
So
I was like, I was tyrannizing myself. I'm like, I'm already in tyranny, but I'm like, nah, I'm free. Like, I don't need to be tyranny. Like, I don't need to be, I don't need to
no,
live in that
man,
paradigm, like necessarily. Like, um,
true.
yeah. So, and it's just like, I think, yeah, I realized like one thing I realized is like, through posting memes, like the memes kind of give me the feedback from people when I'm doing too much. And like
Mhm.
the like one thing was like I realized like just not to make jokes about violence, like in a serious way, just because even though people like who know me know that I'm not violent and like wouldn't do violence to anyone, they like some of my friends are like, yeah, but you might not do violence, but you might be inciting others to do violence, and you might also be you don't know what you would do if if you felt like out of self-defense you might do violence. Or yeah, I don't know, yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. I'm like, but I just decided just not to even go there, because like I don't know, like a lot of like I've got like I like polled people on my story recently, because I was like, I wonder who's actually watching this, and it's basically like 80% of my followers on Instagram are like lefty or aligned with like what I'm saying, and then 20% of them are like disagree with me entirely. And like
80% of the people polled, not
pulled,
everybody.
yeah, so there could be people watching being like, you're a fucking communist, or like or I don't know, like, yeah, that just the people who like hit the button. And and I do get to see who hit the button, so some people would be like, I don't want you to so yeah, I don't know, like, but I don't know, like I just don't, I just started to realize like, oh yeah, no, the left can be violent. The left could totally be violent. The Russian Revolution, the French Revolution, um, like, you know, Antifa, like, you know, whoever, like, you know, and
Man, but that's the shit that fucking drives me crazy. It's so disingenuous. Like they'd be like, "Oh, no violence, love everybody," but these people behind me will be the ones to fuck you up if you don't listen. Like,
yeah. That's what I'm saying. Is like, because there's always some force who's, in a group that's ready to do violence, because that's like the
Mhm.
that's like the last resort. Like if we can't solve our issues diplomatically or through contest or some way, like we we got to fight, fight it out. That's nature. But like
Yep.
I'm like, of course I'm like not gonna ever like do violence, like like I've never, like I've always been like, I was kind of bullied a little bit, like it's just like, like I'm anti that. But like the but if I'm like supporting or driving a thing, like I'm like rhetoric that's targeting a certain group, like there
Mhm.
might be some Antifa thugs behind me who are like validated by that. So I
Mhm.
have to take the personal responsibility of like, if I'm inciting violence, maybe it's, even if it's ironic or a joke, like someone else might be like loading their gun, like I like, just like that's my
That's
belief.
fair, but at the same time, you're overreaching and taking responsibility for people's actions at the same time, and that goes right into the land of arrogance. Because
That's
like
true. Okay.
you're not responsible when that man goes to court. You're not there.
That's
When
true.
he goes to court after shooting that
And and
motherfucker, you're not responsible
and
by the societal standards.
yeah, and
So who the fuck are these people to tell you to not do something for some shit that someone else will do?
yeah, and like Trump got acquitted for the incitement of the January 6th, like through our legal system. It was like, nah, he's not responsible for that. And like,
And that
however
that
you
sets a
feel about
precedent
that,
too.
true.
That sets a legal precedent for how the society views things. Like, hey, you can do this, but it's on you for doing it,
Right. As soon
not
as
the
you do
person who
it,
said it.
that's you. You did that. Like you did the thing.
Right, because if you think about that same logic, because I'm this is gonna be one of my first thought experiments. If you were to
Mm,
take that same logic and follow it all the way down, people like Martin Luther King would be held physically and personally responsible for Selma, all of the civil rights riots, all of the like they would be personally responsible for everyone who went in there to defend their civil rights.
mm-hmm.
Everyone, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like
They're like,
that's
you're the leader. Like you're locked up for that.
this
Like
is your
for
fault.
what this
This
guy did
yeah.
or this guy did.
It,
Like, and there's always like people who are gonna go undercover on the other side and do violence to try to stir shit up. That always happens. And then like,
Exactly. So whenever the next leftist friend comes your way, be like, you can't do that. That's inciting violence. Be like, you have to keep the same thing towards Martin Luther King. He
yeah,
was out here saying things that were disrupting the status quo, and he was inciting more violence than me making my jokes. He
mm-hmm,
actually sent people to go get hurt,
yeah, yeah.
and
He put
that's one
people
of
in
your
the
heroes, isn't it?
right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I hear you entirely. That's a good point. Like I guess it's just like, just to be safe, I'm like, all right, I'm just not gonna like make any violent memes. Like I stopped with the like eat the rich stuff or the like guillotine stuff. Like I still think guillotine shit's funny as fuck, but like I'm just like, just so you know, not saying we should be guillotine Wall Street. Like, but like just in
That's
case.
like Tim Dillon. That's like Tim Dillon. Did you see how he got something happened. He was on one of his podcasts and he detailed an entire plan on how to like assassinate somebody.
Oh God.
Like he was like, I'm not
I'm not saying
saying
you should do
go
it,
kill
but
him,
if I were to
but
do
here's
it,
a plan. But
it's
here's
like
a very detailed plan.
that reminds me of do you ever watch like Whitest Kids You Know back in the day? That like that skit group, they had one where it was like, I'm not saying assassinate the president, but I'm just saying if there's a roof and with a 30 meters with this trajectory and a mortar, you would hit the Oval Office. And like, but I'm again
You're
that, oh my bad, did it lock up?
yeah,
Oh yeah,
yeah.
the like, yeah. Did you hear that? Did it come through? The like Whitest Kids You Know
Yeah.
skit? Yeah, that was just yeah, those guys, whatever. But like yeah, no, that is the thing. So I'm just like, just in case, like, because there's talk about like one thing that people on the, not, I won't say the right, but like people on the right of the left of who are telling me like, yeah, right now
That's a
we
good
have,
way to put that, on the
yeah,
right of the left.
yeah. That's the first time I put it that way. That's actually, that works.
That is beautiful.
Yeah,
Mwah.
hell yeah. He was saying like, it's like, yeah, like currently right now we have the freedom of speech and we have these freedoms that we're like, you're not responsible for this, but like that the worry about where some of this leftist rhetoric, the extreme leftist rhetoric could go, is that we start making these laws that would make me responsible for that, or like that someone could use something I say against me. So I'm like, just to future proof things. It's just like,
Mm-hmm.
like
and see, like, but that's the shit that allows it to happen because it's like I gotta be careful in it, and I'm guilty of this too. Like, especially when I was in OSA, there was a bunch of shit where I was just like, better just to let it go, not
It's just
say
not
shit,
worth it. Pick your
whatever.
fights.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I'm getting to the point where I'm like, no, I'm gonna fight you on
Yeah, you
it.
got to
No,
stand up for what
I
you believe
can't.
in.
Because you guys are getting to the point where you're making too much progress and it's going into the realm of crazy. Like where people are getting retroactively tarnished for things that happened well before these things were established now.
Going back and
Especially like
Twitter.
like on Twitter, it'd be like, oh, this person said this in 2015.
Oh yeah. Oh my God. Yeah, I see that happening a lot. Like just yeah.
And that shit
I'm so
that
glad
shit made
I didn't have a lot of
that
shit
shit made me
recorded back in the
nervous.
day.
But see, man, I'm getting to the point where I'm like, now I want to record some wild shit just to see what you're gonna do.
Yeah. It's like I don't like yeah. Like where would it go? Where like what like how far will it go?
How about this? Are you?
Yeah. How about it? Are you though?
I'm gonna fuck around and find out. I don't even want you to. I'll do it.
That's what I realized, like with like our like OSA friends and like lefty people. I've got lefty people out here the same way, like who are just like, I'm like, yeah, you're all about this stuff, and and you guys are very like validated and righteous in your views, and I agree with a lot of it. It's just like, but I'm like, do you like where we're going, like the way you're sounding, like like where it's just like we're so entrenched and we're like gonna go, like I'm willing to fight the civil war for it. I'm like, that the the rest of like like a large chunk of the country, like outside of every single city, is a bunch of people who do not agree with you, and they have been stockpiling weapons like for years. And I'm
Like literally everyone that you're against has guns.
like
Like
so
everyone,
many,
and I
and
don't know anyone in this group has guns.
they're all anti-gun. Like I mean, like I know I've got a group of like I know lefties who are into guns because they're like they're playing that out and they're like getting ready for that. But I'm like, or just self-defense, and there's a lot of left people who are just about Second Amendment rights too. But like the I like yeah, I'm just like, do you guys like how many bullets have you saved? Like how many, like that ContraPoints video I sent you a while ago of just like of just like come on guys, like what where like let's see your arsenal, like let me see your checklist, like like do you have like F-150s strapped with like assault rifles? I don't
Machine
see
guns?
it.
No, I
No.
don't know.
The military, most of the military isn't just gonna go with the left revolution, like, and they're the
No.
most, you guys are like organized and like tactical, like
The
where's your
most
tactics?
the most organized, tactical, strategically powerful organization on the planet
On
in the
Earth.
history of the planet. In the history of the planet.
Where's your air
And
support? Like like what, you got some drones with the C4 on it? Like what are you gonna do? Like what more do you have? Like
what are you gonna do when an A10 does a strafing run? What
I don't even
like,
know what an A10 is, but that shit would light my shit up. Like I don't.
an A10 is an assault plane that has a 22 millimeter cannon on the front of it.
Okay, that would turn me into pink mist.
that shoots at about 200 a minute.
Okay, so nothing's left. So
No,
where's
and
Joe?
like, bro, a 20 millimeter round is about this big.
Oh my god, dude.
Yeah, with a projectile that's legit like this big, like the black part of this. So this is just hot lead coming at you, 300 of these per minute, just.
That's what I'm saying. The second there's an actual major insurrection from the left,
or anybody,
or anyone really, yeah, because
any side, it's gonna
they'll shut your shit down too on any side. Like the like, but like especially
what I think is.
Go ahead.
Uh, what I think is happening is both sides are enticing the other one to do that insurrection, so that they have the reason to enact the martial law, and then the other one's justified.
That's what I see too. That's what I think about January 6th. I'm like, how did they all get in there? Like it almost feels like, just in my like truest, even if it sounds conspiratorial, a lot of people I've been talking to agree with it. It's just like, it's just like you shouldn't be able to storm the Capitol. Like that's the one building
Just
you
just
shouldn't be
walk
able.
in.
Like it's like I feel like they just let him in and just like and there's a lot of different like people disagree about like how that happened. Like some people like people on the left a lot will say like, oh, it's because the police sympathize with them and like let them in, or like.
Mm.
But I'm thinking it's more like they're like, oh yeah, we know that we can. They're not gonna. We'll shoot them like that one lady who unfortunately got shot in the neck. Like we'll stop
She
them.
and I had the same job in the military. It's not
Are you
unfortunate.
serious?
She knew what the yeah, she knew
Oh,
what the fuck she was doing.
oh.
She was a cop in the military. She knew what the fuck she was doing.
She was really feeling the revolution vibe. Like she was really like about it. But she was brave. I mean, brave. Like I mean, but like, damn, that kind of, yeah, that sucks. Yeah. They
You
stopped.
got to be kind of stupid to be brave.
Yeah, that's true. You got to accept like or just like not see the consequences sometimes. But that stopped that charge. Like like no one else went through that window. But so I think they were thinking they're like, yeah, we're gonna be fine. Like, but if we let them in, all the security cameras will show just how crazy, and it's all this QAnon stuff, and you got the Viking
It's
guys
performative.
like the face of it, and like the that can be you can we can immediately on the news. It was just like 24. My parents are always watching MSNBC, and they're just like, it was just like terrorist, domestic, just like there was a widespread condemnation of that, like that group, that whole group, like and I believe they'll probably use this to like put walls and more fortifications up and be this is why we got to be more secure.
Entrench themselves further in the Capitol while they try to pass bills to get rid of our guns and increase the amount of money that they take out of taxes.
Yeah, like that. So like that's they're like in liberals and lefties will be like, yeah, because we don't want the QAnon people to storm. Like we get it, but then when the left people like want to do their insurrection because of the crazy ass shit that the government does next, like they're like it's going to be way harder to get in, like and they might have like way more security. So it's like that's kind of what I think about it.
Well, also at the same time, in Oregon, there were like during the Oregon riots or Portland, and during the Portland riots,
Yeah.
the federal buildings out there got fucking firebombed and they got smashed immediately. Like they got picked up in the unmarked vans, and everyone's like, "Overreaching government, they're doing all this blah blah blah. Fuck the feds."
Yeah.
And then, and then like
it's
not
like,
even a few months later, the same thing happens at the Capitol, and the people who were for the federal buildings in Oregon getting destroyed are like, defend the Capitol. I'm like,
I know
which
you see it one way and not the other, and it's like, yeah.
Well, either way, each side has their cheerleaders that will do the thing, like will cheer on the thing that they want you to be like, yeah. That's I want them to do that.
They'll cheer on the radical elements because it's on seemingly on for their position.
Mm-hmm. And I don't know, just in that sense, I feel bad for the left side because I feel that I think and believe that a lot of the thought leaders and people who are pushing this are disingenuous because not many, like, I know there's some people who are willfully willing to be inconsistent with their outrage, but then there's a lot of people who are just like, I'm on this side because I believe in good things that the side has, and they're just trying to get that to be the more dominant ideology in the country, which I don't necessarily have a problem with. But like on the right side, at least from my perspective, they're way more upfront on what their outcome that they want to have happen is. Like they're saying, like I will see like conservatives be like, or Republicans or right-leaning people like with abortion, like we want to restrict this. Like we want this to be like this, regardless of how nice or whatever it sounds. This is what we want. We're going to defend this and we're going to fight for it. And I don't know. And I don't know. I just feels more honest coming from the right. And then I don't know. I don't know. I just feel like the left is going to always have like those cheerleaders who are getting abused by the people that are doing what they're cheering on for. And I don't know. I don't know. I see more of that being able to happen on the left side of things. And it's like a weird emotional empathetic thing where I'm like, please like save yourself.
Yeah, no, I'm starting to see it more now too. Cause I definitely came from it of just like a purely like partisan side where I was just like, well, left is I identify with the tenets of the left, and a lot of my conservative friends also say a lot of like racist stuff. So I was like, easy for me to make that thing. But yeah, I don't know what it was that I don't know. Just like thinking about it more, I was just like, oh shit, what if I'm like, you know, abetting it? You know, what if I'm abetting? You know, just like, but because I started like I heard arguments that like pointed out holes in my logic, and I was like, oh, and I got stuck, and I couldn't like defend my position, so I was like, you know, back to the drawing board. But like, but yeah, no, like
Feel like
yeah,
what's his name from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia?
yeah, I'm like, but like, yeah, what happened in Chaz and like what happened in Seattle with that stuff, like that shit was out of control. Like, you know, and like, and I see, yeah, the left kind of was like, no, this is because it is left, because it is like aligned with them. Like, they're like, this is good. This is how you do anarchy. You know, like this is how you have like independent things. But like setting up anarchy like that in the middle of a city where we're in a very much like uh I don't know, there's like rapes going on. There's I don't know, think about like Occupy
There
Wall
was
Street.
there was
Like
during Chaz, there was the most property crime, violence, like assaults, batteries, murders, and property damage done in that Chaz than there was in the entirety of like that like of Portland.
yeah, and I bet a lot of it is like people from all over who are not even engaged in politics are just like, oh, there's no police there? Bet. Like, you know, like
Yeah,
that's
and yeah, yeah. Well, but that's also what happened in the like coming into the Russian Revolution. A lot of people, well, they changed the way that I got to send you the Gulag Archipelago so you can read Solzhenitsyn and break this down.
yeah,
But they
I ought to do that.
they took they made it culturally. I don't know how to even explain this. Like they pretty much were like, hey, these are the oppressors, we're the oppressed. The
Hmm.
people in the jails right now are just there due to the oppression that these people put them here, so they're socially friendly to us.
Hmm.
And then they made this mass push to get the prisoners out of prison, which were consisted of pedophiles, rapists, and thieves, who were the most organized underground characters and archetypes.
Hmm.
And then they were like, here, come over here, we're your
Yeah,
saviors.
come
And
fight
it's a
for
bunch
us.
of
Yeah.
and it's a bunch of sheep calling the wolves, coyotes, and snakes into their flock. And
Yeah.
then, since they were already organized and cutthroats and would rape, kill you, and steal shit from you, they just bullied the people that got them out of the prison and became the leaders of those new people,
Oh shit.
and
Yeah.
did it in a super cutthroat manner. And it's like, that's what's happening over there in Portland. It's like they opened up as this place where you could just be like, come on in, do what you do, be who you be. And all that attracts is, from what I've seen, herd like animals and predators. There's very rarely do you that doesn't entice like the sheepdogs and the shepherds and the herding type,
Hmm.
protecting type animals. It doesn't entice them. So you get those two in the same space, and there's generally more cows in a herd than there are wolves chasing it.
I hear
So
that.
like then you have the easily intimidated with the intimidating people. So they're just going to fall in line with whatever they say, and that's how you get those negative. Well, one, I've noticed that socialism also promotes like a cult of personality era where
Yeah,
you
that's
can
never good.
zest your way into a position, which I think Obama did. And
Yeah, I can see that. I can definitely see that because people were just like
and
so
you could
into the character of Obama, they were ignoring a lot of the things he was doing.
Yeah, and they were like, "Oh, black president, he's smooth, he's a
Yep,
nice
he's
guy,
super
he makes us
nice,
look great."
speaks
You
great.
know,
Yeah,
he's Harvey Weinsteining us at the same time. I don't understand
and he was like
it.
droning the shit out of like weddings and like, you know, doing a lot of the same things that the left would be like super hop on a Republican in a heartbeat about, you know?
Well, that they say that they say that the Republican is like that's their archetypal association,
Right,
bad guy,
that too,
boogeyman, and
that too.
that's the I Solzhenitsyn breaks down how this happened from like the early 1900s, like 1918, all the way through the Bolshevik Revolution. Like, well, the Bolshevik Revolution already happened in
but
the
yeah,
1800s.
but it kept, yeah, that shit was
Yeah, like
all connected.
so like this.
Yeah.
So this is like way before World War One, and then it goes into after World War Two.
I did
So
read
it breaks.
about read about like how in the gulags, like in the Soviet Union, there were like like there were like the tribes of like there's like the majority of people were the thieves and all the murders and everything, and then like the and they all were made up, you know, gang sort of, you know, prison activity, and then the political prisoners were the minority, and they just got like dominated by the thieves
Well,
in the prisons. So that makes sense. Like,
they also saw that in their new social construction laws that it made sense for the prisoners to be able to run the prisons themselves, which just led into the thieves, murderers, and rapists
right.
controlling everyone inside and outside the prison.
The most cutthroats took control.
Yeah,
and that's kind of what I see as like a micro.
and that's what also what happened with the revolutions as they progressed upward. You had the
Stalin.
thought leaders, and then the cutthroats took over
Stalin.
them, and then,
Yeah.
then the cutthroats took over them.
Like,
But the thing
yeah.
is, what's funny about those atmospheres is because of how dominance hierarchies work. It's not. This even goes to like chimpanzees. It's not a good idea to be dominant through force, because then just two people, three-quarters your strength, can completely take you out. So that leads into that same domination with the subversive aspect, so that you can maintain your power, and then you have that Machiavellian aspect that comes in, and that's how you get the Nikita Khrushchevs and all those other people who waited and just seized power at the end, and it just keeps becoming this thing to where you try to grab from underneath and hold as long as you can, where you lead to Putin, who's been the president for like 20 fucking years. And
right.
He was a spy and built all of this power
he
and
got powerful,
coercion around it.
He knew the most. Like he was just
exactly,
and he was and yeah, he was the one who managed to get it together in sort of like a.
and he was able to cultivate that power and that cult of personality around himself and maintain that power.
Cult personality.
And that's something that I see very common on the left, is like, even with the Behind the Bastards thing, a lot of the criticisms I heard were not on the information he was saying, but on who he was as a person. And it's like, I wouldn't follow this guy because look at the inconsistencies in his character. It's not what I would like.
Yeah,
that's just that I've noticed that to be pretty common in general amongst the left. And it's interesting how, like, even like you were saying with like, oh, this is the left, this we have to maintain this with Chaz. It doesn't matter. This is what we're doing now. Yeah. And that, I don't know, it all goes in, it all feeds into that.
Yeah, no, I definitely like, just on the Robert Evans thing, like, because that podcast is kind of just going into the personalities of whoever he decides is bad from his perspective, and then like, but yeah, and it's very much like editorial or like opinion, you know, his opinion on it. So it's
a little gossip session.
Yeah, it's definitely gossip. There's just a lot of like facts in it, you know? So it's like, so like, yeah. And I feel like it's okay to like give your opinion and stuff. And just like, that's my opinion. But as long as you're like, this is kind of this is just what I think, you know? And like, based off of everything I know, but like, you know, people are always fallible. So it's like, yeah. And that's why, like, when he was making jumps with Jordan Peterson, I was like, yeah, I wouldn't make that jump. But like, I can see that path. Like, I can see that. And if that happens, like, I don't know. Is Jordan Peterson active right now? Is he still like in his like on the mountain, or like what is he doing?
Well, he was in a coma for about a year.
What?
Yeah, and what's fucked up about it is a lot of these people who were talking shit about him were like driving that home while he was away, like driving this whole thing crazy. But so he was on benzodiazepines to help with like anxiety and stuff like that, so he can continue to work and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
And you're supposed to wean off of benzos when you get off, and he just was like, I can't do this anymore, and stopped. And it gave him like, I can't remember this disease, but it's something where like you physically cannot stop moving, like you have to keep walking around or doing something. It's like it's a very rare side effect of benzodiazepine withdrawal. And it ended up he ended up like going up and down and back and forth with SSRIs and benzos and
Oh man,
anti-anxiety
I
shit,
yeah, I feel
and
real
it put
bad.
him in a coma.
Jesus.
And
So, but you said
so
was
like, yeah, he was in a coma. He's out. He's been doing podcasts and stuff, but he's
okay.
not as active. He looks fucking beat
Yeah, I
down,
bet
dude,
he's
compared
like keeping
to
it
years
chill
ago.
for now, like like trying to regain his strength and shit. That's really
Yeah,
sad. I honestly like that sucks. Like I
and yeah, and it, so he and his daughter Michaela have been doing. They've been doing more podcasts and interviews and stuff like that.
hmm
Like the Wim Hof one I showed you. That was one recently after he got
Oh, that
out.
was post
Like that
coma?
was his
Okay.
second one that he did.
Oh, okay. Because
Yeah,
like
that
he
was
seemed
yeah,
okay there. Like I felt like I didn't realize that all this had happened and that was because okay, so he's all right. Like
yeah.
like he's alive. Like I like that. Yeah, because he seemed to be. I didn't real like he seemed normal in that podcast. So I was like, I did see. So like yeah, so that's good. Because
Yeah.
I don't wish ill on the man. Like it's like Jesus.
But but something funny about while that was happening though, he had an interview with a New York Times interviewer,
Mm-hmm.
journalist,
Yeah.
and he did it with Michaela, and it was through like Zoom, and I don't know if the interviewer knew that it was being recorded on their end, but after they did the interview, the interviewer did like this hit piece on him and saying like he's schizophrenic and like mentally unable to
Trying to
maintain this other
delegitimize.
shit.
Yeah.
And then Michaela released the interview, which was really funny to watch.
Wait. It was like he didn't think the mic was on, kind of
Well,
situation.
no, like
Or,
they knew that they were like this, but they didn't know that Jordan was the one or Michaela was recording it on her end. And so they did the interview. They wrote their piece, put it in the New York Times, and then they saw it and they're like, no, it's not.
oh,
And
so
then
like
they,
so the people didn't see the interview until except for Michaela had recorded it because
mm-hmm,
they probably figured like this guy might spin it, like or like put his do something, but because she recorded the primary source, you can see
mm-hmm.
the two and
Yeah,
see
you could,
yeah and make
yeah,
make them your
yeah,
mind up for
yeah,
yourself. That's dope. That's smart. You should that
mm-hmm,
you should do that. Like
yeah,
yeah, especially if you know it's the fucking New York Times has like a certain feels a certain way about you or like because I know the New York Times has put sort of negative
Well,
light on it.
what's even more crazy is like the way that the interviewer approached the interview. It was like, how are you doing? How are you feeling? What was it like for you doing everything? He ended up in Moscow to get the treatment that saved him.
Mm-hmm.
Like he had to do some like it's kind of like Blackwater fucking medical shit where you couldn't get it here in the United States because it's not good enough or whatever.
For
But
FDA or
so
whatever.
they're like,
Yeah.
yeah, they're like, so why did you go to Russia and all this other stuff? And it was
Oh
just
yeah.
like, what's going on?
Anytime
How do
anyone
you
goes to
feel?
Russia, it's like, yeah.
And your fans and all this other stuff. And it was a really good interview. Like he broke down like a little bit, was crying because it's been forever since he did an interview, so his poise was fucked up. So like you really see more of a candid version of himself, and he's like talking about how everywhere he goes, like someone's like, hey, the things that you've been talking about, it really helped out, and I have like a good relationship with my mother and father now, and I got a new career and all this other shit. And he's like everywhere I go, and he like starts crying, and then in the interview, she's like,
He has helped a lot.
he arrogantly takes on the honor of all this other shit and takes joy in
Oh
seeing the
yeah, yeah,
pride of all
yeah,
this other
yeah. Oh
shit. It's
Jesus,
like,
yeah,
Jesus,
yeah. No, I know.
Jesus.
I've met some guys like who have like had their lives changed, like on the interpersonal and the personal level, and
Mm-hmm.
like when I listened to like when I first listened to Jordan Peterson, it was like about the trans issues. So I was like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
he's against the trans. But then I like started listening to the like his like 12 rules of life. It's just like all of his things that are about like the person and like you and like owning up to your it just and I was like, this is all fire. Like I don't have see why people have a problem with this. And like and yeah, like my friend Kyle, who I mean acquaintance Kyle, I don't know, I haven't talked to him in a long time, but like the dude who was talking about Jordan Peterson for the first time to me, like
Mm-hmm.
he he had like difficult relationships with his parents and with different people, and like the way he was explaining how his mindset changed, I was like, that's actually really good. Like that's really dope. I just then he hits me with some like weird other shit. So it's just like, yeah, just trying to parse out like
See, my relationship with my family is really good, but fucking Jews.
yeah, I know. I'm like everyone that's like that was like literally my job like in at work was like we're having a good conversation blah 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 and then it's like but you know why this is a problem, the Jewish bankers. And I'm like, oh, why they gotta be Jewish though?
Why do we have to do this? Why are we here?
But I think I've like worked that one out a little bit, like because like when I started in my conspiracy theory journey where I was like, all right, I started from like Illuminati, bankers, Federal Reserve, like, you know, like what do we got here? And like, you know, everyone's always, and I probably digested like a good like a lot of like QAnon, like proto QAnon, you know, like I digested a lot of that. And you know, there's a whole thing about like the Federal Reserve, the international banking cartels, and then the whole Jewish thing. But then I like, yeah, like I don't even know if I want to go into all that. But basically, it's not Jews. Like that's the main thing. Like it is like it's in America. It's like if you want to ascribe anything to like a majority group, it's WASPs. Like I'm a WASP, like a white Anglo-Saxon Protestant. Like, but I'm not. I don't think it's WASPs. You know, like I don't think it's that. You know, it's like, but like, you know. There's a lot of reasons you can go. I don't know. It's an interesting topic, but I don't even want to go into it because
it's complex.
Yeah,
there's
exactly.
a lot of
Yeah.
players, lots of different players. But hey, I got like 5 more minutes and I gotta go.
Let's wrap it up. This has been fire. I really hope it recorded everything because like I will be sad if it didn't. My button is still going.
Could you please send it to me because I want to listen to it again?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, this is fire. I want to work
my conversation style and shit like that and see if I'm getting out the idea the way, like the full idea the way that I want to and shit like that.
Yeah, reflecting and like the like what is that called? Like just the churning over of something and like refining, the tweaking, like that whole thing. Like yeah, so I'm gonna definitely send this over to you. And I know like yeah, so I think you're recording your audio, right?
I am not.
You're not? Okay.
Yeah,
yeah, that's right. That's right. No. We already. I remember. It's the Zoom. Zoom's recording the audio. So okay, cool. So yeah, really, it should just be one file. If that's the case, this just got super easy.
That just got into. We just need to get on the Zoom and speak.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like you got some time. We got some time. Let's go. And then
cool.
Yeah, try to bring everyone in. Yeah, no, this has been fucking awesome. I
know we were talking earlier about like making this, like bringing other people in.
Yeah.
Bryant and AJ would be down to talk about different shit already.
Yeah, you're talking. We want to get into like interpersonal and different things about our life and shit. Like yeah, like I want to get into that.
Do you know from OSA, the taller black guy?
What's his name?
John Cox.
Okay, I don't know John, but yeah, like yeah.
Well, I know that he's an intellectual minded person as well. We've gotten into multiple discussions about like the Keystone Pipeline and like race relations in the United States. And he's also a black man, and he comes from a different background than I would. And I'm not one to be like, oh, only a black person could speak on a black person's existence or whatever, but it does help if you come from
like that's the primary sources. Like,
yeah, and it does help.
Yeah.
And I think it is cool to have multiple opinions coming from like, you know, different black people's experiences and to hear like what he has to say about it, because what he went through and what I went through are two different. And I think that's one, like a really cool thing to add to the black experience that people don't realize is, or at least explicitly, we're not a fucking monolith and we don't go through the same things.
Yeah. No,
like, and there's a difference between like, say if you're a black person with a white mom and a black dad, you're going to have a different life if you had two black parents, or if you had a white mom and a black dad. Like those are three very blocked general differences, and it's completely different for every single one of them.
Yeah, no, I think I wonder how many. Yeah, I want to see. We definitely got to bring it. Like, we just got to bring people. We got to start building the community. And I wonder how many people we can get on that it would be like a product. You know, like because I think Zoom we can host us all, and like it might change. Like we might be able to do it all just within this, and like have a group discussion.
I think Zoom would be dope, and then we can do like in person things because that's always nice to see everybody there and the physical rapport.
Yeah, no, and
Um,
get
but I think that with doing Zoom, maximum occupancy has to be like 4 people because
because
anything
it'll
past
just
that, you're
get
gonna have
too
people talking over each other.
and lag and stuff.
Someone's not gonna
Yeah.
talk, and then
It,
it'll
yeah, it'll cut.
yeah.
It'll yeah. No, you're right. I figured there's a limit to like where that becomes like not fun to listen to anymore, just as a viewer, you know. But like, um, but yeah, no,
Mhm.
and there's different ways. Like if you say you, Brian, and AJ are in a group and have your like all system, and maybe I want to see the different combos of like if you got a group in real life feeding into the mic and then like I'd be there in the thing or other people could be in the coming in through
Mhm.
Zoom and see if we can
Mhm.
like stitch that all together because that would be sick. Sick, like
Yeah, that'll be
yeah,
fun to play around with.
hell yeah, dope. Well, what yeah, when's the
Cool,
next?
man. This is panning out to look like it's gonna be pretty fucking fun.
Yeah, no, I think we're onto something here. I'm do the thing. Yeah,
doing the Birdman money
yeah, the
game.
Birdman. All right, man. Much love, dude. We'll get this going like next week or something. Like, just let me know when you have like another hour or two.
Hold on. Let me actually go to my calendar now. Um, Next week. Do you want to do next week Monday again?
Yeah. Yeah.
Bet.
It is a bet.
Cool, man.
All right, Doc. Until
Be
next
easy.
time.
Be safe.
I'll send you
Yes,
the shit.
sir. Thanks, man. Talk to you later.
Peace, bro.